I think it's important to remember that you have trained for 5 years to become a doctor, and it does take adjusting to. I think our Father in heaven is very kind to us, and he promises never to leave or forsake us. And I think you have to hold on to his promises and onto his grace when you are a junior doctor. We are as a tribe, high performance, high demanding, big time performing people. And by the time we've finished 5 years or more of medical school, we feel like we've got our routine well and truly sorted. And then our lifestyle changes enormously, not only with the adjustment of becoming a junior doctor, but also the fact that every 4 months your job changes. And suddenly the things that we put in place fall to pieces. And all quite often that we're left with is us and God. And sometimes we realise that actually we haven't spent that much time with him. And some of the things that we've put our confidence in actually aren't really trustworthy. Plus, add on top of that a really difficult working environment, shifts, exhaustion, dealing with life, dealing with people who are facing really difficult things in life. And it is extremely intellectually, emotionally and spiritually draining. And to pretend otherwise is the lie. I think you do have to figure out what works for you. I think there are some key principles though, as you make that adjustment from being a student to working as a foundation doctor. I think friends and other Christians whom you can pray with are really important. Suddenly you won't be able to go to home group without fail. You won't be able to go to church every Sunday. Perhaps your quiet times will look very different. You might even struggle to have them at all. That's not unusual. So having a Christian friend, having a Christian doctor whom you can talk to and kind of emotionally offload to is really helpful. I think knowing that you can emotionally decompensate with Jesus is really important. I think it's also important to remind yourself that even the worst job is only going to last 4 months. And there are times when we do survive, we are just surviving. And sometimes there are times when you're thriving and you're hitting your stride, and the way that God's made you and your natural giftings and your environment, it all just comes together and it's all just working really well. And then there are other times where you just feel like you're stuck and it's like you're swimming through treacle and it's exhausting and you're going nowhere. And every doctor has had those times. So I think the foundation program is a difficult time. It's a time of refinement. You're being stuck in a furnace and the dross is being burnt off, and it is very unpleasant. I hated, there are times where I hated it. There are times where I thought, what on earth am I doing? But I look back now, not only with the luxury of a year in between where I didn't do anything clinical, but also just with the luxury of time. I look back and go, God was good, God was faithful, I learnt a lot. I grew in godliness, even though I didn't really think that I didn't really realise that I was, because actually my idea of what was godly, my idea of what is holiness, my idea of what a good Christian should be was just totally inadequate. And I'm continuing to learn that, so I'll look back in 2 years' time and I'll watch this interview and think, oh gosh, what was I talking about? But I'd say I look back on my foundation programme and go, and I can definitely say that God was good, God was faithful, my Father never let go of me. My Father was always kind to me, even when I didn't hear him or when I wasn't paying attention to him, he never left my side. So yeah, I'd say to junior doctors, you do have to figure out what works for you, and you just have to totally rely on grace. Like, your performance is going to go totally, you won't be able to rely on performance because you'll be performing abysmally. So any self-esteem you had wrapped up in that it's just going to go. If you don't know any Christian doctors, perhaps you've moved to a new area, perhaps you're in a new, you're somewhere different from where you've been before and you don't really know anybody at church yet, I'd say try and contact CMF for a local contact. There are lots of doctors who would love to hear from you and to feed you and to listen to you, and I think we're used to people moaning at us, so don't feel like you can't find someone to have a good moan and a cry with, because well, there are loads of us who are quite willing to do that with you. So I think those are some of the key things that CMF can do for you. And also, as perhaps there are issues locally to do with perhaps ethics or things that are happening in your hospital or in your trust, and you can ask CMF for advice in terms of, well, what can I do about this, or I'm not happy with this, or is this legal, or, you know, CMF has a lot of very wise people who know about this kind of thing.